the most extraordinary designer, and a man who gave only one interview in his entire life, and it was after he retired. Incredibly private, very shy. He was considered the monk in some ways of fashion. People were dying to have audiences with him. There was almost a papal level of worship around him. And he was a man that retired in spring 1968, but his collections first started 40 years before then. Balenciaga really understood women, understood fashion, and brought with him a very different sensibility. Obviously Spanish. His inspiration points were Goya, Thurbaran, 15th and 16th century Catholic painting, his sense of colour, his use of lace, his use of the hot pinks that you see here, of a spectacular bright yellow. Everything had a historic root, but was brought to life in a very, very different fashion. It was updated. It was about the play of volume and air. One of the things that Balenciaga said was always very important to him was not just the shell of the dress, but the air between the dress and the woman's body. He understood how volumes would work so that something would move perfectly, that it would balance and refine without having to be corseted, without having to be pulled and pinched. And when he couldn't get something to do what he wanted, he went that stage further. So this dress, which is haute couture from 1961 in the most incredible bright pink silk gazar, that's a fabric he made. So gazar and zagar, its even finer version, are two fabrics that were born of Cristobal Balenciaga because that incredible sculptural shape, he kept being frustrated and was finally unable to create it in taffeta, unable to create it in the Duchesse. So he just made the fabric. That's the change of him as a designer. He was a man that absolutely understood the message he wanted to convey, and he went to all lengths to make that happen. There's a fantastic story that when he retired in 1968, one of his clients was so devastated, she locked herself in her bedroom and refused to speak to anybody for 4 days. When he retired, it made world page news around the world. It was a world in mourning because of a man who made clothes. For that to happen that early should really convey his importance. He worked with Lesage, he worked with Rebbe, he worked with Abrahams, he worked with every major mill, every major embroidery house. He was as much a Spaniard under his label Asa as he was a Parisian couturier working under his real name of Balenciaga. He was so layered in his approach, and this dress testifies to everything he was about. Incredible volume, really almost mythical cutting, incredible use of colour, amazing understatement hidden within that frivolity, and an absolute understanding of how a woman wanted to look at any given time.